People popping up everywhere.
Sorry, you might have to define...
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
You might have to define Mogadon for me.
Mogadon, yeah, who remembers Mogadon? Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it's like the soul is missing from these people. Their minds are just, they've lost the ability to think for themselves. They just follow whatever mantra they've been given to hum.
That sounds actually like I've interviewed a Freemason whistleblower. In fact, I was speaking with him just this evening, in fact, and he was telling me about how all of these degrees and things that they're trying to lead people into is more or less very slowly ripening the initiate's soul up for demon possession. And I think, you look at some of these people in our society who do these terrible things, and I don't think they're really human. There's something human missing from them, and I'm talking about the elite specifically, the very, very high up people. Something's been lost in their humanity and can't return.
This is something that, again, I'm going to labour the point because it's a really important point. The book Totalitaria has documented this issue of who wants to take over the planet. And just to put this in context, there's been plenty of attempts to rule the world over the centuries, as we all know. But the technical ability to do that has only existed in the present day. Previous attempts were done by brute force or conquest, and quite frankly, no matter how hard the Romans tried, they couldn't really administer the entire planet, and they didn't. At their peak, they only covered 4% of the globe. The Nazis covered 4% of the globe at their peak. The two biggest empires the world has seen were the Mongols, who of course had lots of land to play with, and they covered 21% of the planet, and the British Empire, which covered 24% at its peak. But even the British, where the sun never set on empire, could not avoid the issue of, well, you can't really control New Zealand in real time from London. Today, with the technology that we now have, that's changed.
So I think the point of Totalitaria to stress to those who will be readership, and if you're listening to this and you're not planning on reading the book, heaven help you. But the point here is, if you want to fight for liberty, if you actually want freedom, this isn't just your chance. This is your last chance. Once the system is in, once it is locked in, it will be irresistible, like Tina Turner.
Exactly, or Robert Palmer, or whatever it is that sings that song. Look, it is very much like that. Now, I think Totalitaria, for all of the people who hate Ian Wishart as a brand, they need to get off their moral high horse and read the book, because the issue is, this is a real plan to take over the world. And the issue I've got with that is that I'm just getting interruptions outside the window. There's a bunch of cows. The neighbours' cows have invaded the driveway. So I sound distracted, that's why. Reading the dahlias.
I can rant for a few minutes here, and if you want to go check on them, both.
I'll go chase them. Look, I'll play some music. I can see them heading for they're going to do all sorts of damage anyway. I'll be back in just a moment.
Okay. Right. Well, I think as Ian was kind of trying to say is that the book Totalitaria is, at least the parts that I've read of it, I haven't managed to read through the entire thing. I'm not much of a reader, I'm sorry, but the point here is, as I said, it's simply irresistible, and I think what you have to realise, and I don't want to condescend or tell you anything that you don't know. You're probably my elders and wiser than I am. I've looked at the demographics for these kind of shows, and everybody tends to be twice my age, usually far more qualified than I have and more life experience. However, because all of those kind of people are my friends and listeners, I've accumulated their knowledge without earning it. So let me just proceed. The life that you think that you've been living your entire existence, oh man, I'm feeling it sounding really arrogant here, isn't what you think it is, okay? And the people who you may have ever looked up to, those people who you put on a pedestal, will disappoint you. This is the way the system has been set up, so that those who you love, honour, try to be part of and what have you, are actually involved usually in a scheme themselves, if not by their own volition, by their brainwashing. How do you know if you're brainwashed? If you never question whether or not you're being brainwashed. Okay? That's simple. And one of my listeners today sent me a message hurriedly. He was very freaked out. He works for the tax department, and he was concerned, and I think this is actually a good lesson for all of us. He was concerned that because he saw scumbaggery happening all around him, and it's been happening for so long, he used to talk about it. He used to try and bring issue with it and kept getting shouted down. And now what's happening is when he sees the scumbaggery around him, he doesn't mind so much. And he had a crisis of conscience. And he was like, oh my God, I don't actually mind the scumbaggery anymore. Am I a scumbag? And I said to him, no, you're not. Because if you were a scumbag, it would never occur to you, oh my God, I'm a scumbag. The same way it would never occur to somebody who was brainwashed, oh my God, I'm brainwashed. Because as soon as you make the realization, the second you make it, the brainwashing and all those conditionings and everything come off. It is just as important to expose the scumbaggery within yourself as it is to expose the scumbaggery within the government or the media or any of these other X amount of institutions which are all inexorably controlled by the same group of sociopathic scumbaggery that control the whole planet. Anyway, my question to you, the listeners, and I want you to think about this. Are you doing enough? No, seriously. Think about this for a moment. Think about it long and hard and honestly. Are you doing enough to prevent the spread of scumbaggery? Scumbaggery is all-encompassing, sure, but we're all putting up with it to an extent, aren't we? We're all compromised. I'm still paying rent. I'm still paying power bills. You all are. There's no way out of this system. They've got us by the short and curlies.
They've grabbed you by your scumbag. That's what they've done.
Yeah. And my question to the audience is, are they doing enough? And if you lose that self-analysis, am I doing enough? Have I become a scumbag unwittingly? Am I brainwashed? Those kind of that kind of self-analysis is incredibly important for your longevity if you are actually going to oppose these kind of forces by which assail us.
Yeah, well, if I can go back to the issue of totalitarian and the plan for world government, after being distracted by the Frisians. The book basically sets out that in the 1870s, a secret society, believing that they had a divine mission, set out a plan to seize control of the future of the world. They infiltrated Buddhism. They set up the New Age movement. They infiltrated the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church. They infiltrated the United Nations. All of this is documented. It's covered in UN documentation. It's covered in autobiographies, some books long out of print. But they had a very clear plan, a very clear agenda. And the issue with that is these people believe they are supernaturally governed, and the world government that they want to impose is going to have that flavour. So if you think life is interesting now, it's going to get a hell of a lot more interesting if this happens.
I found this funny because a few people have used that word interesting in this context, and by interesting they mean totally messed up, bro.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, people would get up in arms if they thought that there was going to be a born-again fundamentalist Christian administration running the country, let alone the world.
They've gotten up in arms just at the mention that one's trying to run for Parliament.
Exactly. This is the thing. And yet, if you go to the other extreme, there's a mad bunch of New Age sympathisers who seriously think that they can usher in the return of the coming one, the absolute supreme, if they raise planetary vibrations enough, and they've seized on climate change and world governance as the way to do this. And it's just bizarre. But the problem is that we're not talking about fringe people here. We're talking about secretaries general of the United Nations. These are people who are seriously in control of the planet. They have massive budgets to work with, and they've got a lot of the politicians of the world on side.
Well, I think the closest any of these people are going to come to the Supreme is when they go to Pizza Hut for dinner tonight.
Yeah, well, again, the point that I make in the book is this. You don't have to believe in the religious, supernatural stuff that these people believe in. It doesn't actually matter what you believe if you read Totalitarian. You can be an atheist, you can be a skeptic, you can be a whatever. The point is this. The people who are in power and who have this agenda believe this. And that makes them very dangerous.
That's true. I mean, think what you will of Muslim extremism and the false terrorism kind of aspects that are coming out of it, and just basically being as an excuse to surveil everybody. It doesn't matter whether or not you believe in Muslim extremism. What matters is whether or not they are willing to blow you up. Okay?
Yeah, this is exactly right. And in fact, in the book, I quote some documents. These people who have this agenda that I'm talking about, the world government agenda, their belief is that they can only unite humanity and institute the brotherhood of man and world government if they create a new world religion. They see Christians, Muslims and Jews as problematic to that. And so they're doing everything they can to stir up trouble between those three religions, particularly Christianity and Islam, with the idea that if they stir up fundamentalists at either extreme, then the population of the world will come to hate Christians and Muslims generally, which will make the job of the world government people even easier because it gives them another manufactured crisis to solve. It's just divide and rule, and the public need to wake up to that.
I had a realization the other day. In fact, this is when I was smoking. I was like, oh my God, there's like a couple of the most discriminated against peoples nowadays. It used to be people were discriminated against by race or sexuality and what have you, but now that's not really happening at all. Racism's kind of on its way out. Gay marriage has been legalized. You know, anybody says anything like that in public, you get chastised more or less. But if you're a smoker, you get cast out like a leper. If you're a conspiracy theorist, people back away very, very slowly from you. And
but if you're a conspiracy factualist, they stay and listen.
Allegedly. You know, I've tried to lay facts on people, but they argue that there's no such thing as facts, and I think this is another part of the genius of this new world religion is solipsism. Nothing exists except me. Everything that I see around me, everything that I see, taste, touch, or smell is my own mind's creation, and I am responsible for all of it. All right?
Yeah.
My consciousness governs the entire world and voids the other 7 billion people's consciousness. How frickin' insane is that?
Oh, it's bizarre. But again, this is symptomatic of the problem that we have. This is why this new religion is going to appeal to the public, because it has no judgment. It demands nothing of its followers except blind obedience to political correctness. And it makes everyone sing from the same hymn sheet. That's the way the world government people see it. They see religion as the ultimate opiate of the masses and the way of controlling the masses. You know, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are divided on the issue of climate change. I can tell you, having researched the scientific papers, and I labour this point time and time again, the scientific evidence on climate change is very mixed. There is a huge debate taking place behind the scenes on whether you can even detect any human influence on climate at all at the moment. The planet's been cooling down for the last 10, 12 years. And our CO2 emissions have been increasing at a rate of knots over that time. So there's no direct correlation between CO2 and planetary temperatures. However, climate change was decided on as a major issue back in the early 1970s by the World Governance Group, who said we need to create environmental concerns that will unite the people behind it and give us a reason to impose new legislation and new laws effectively to save the planet, but with the mechanism of creating this world governance structure. This has been on the agenda for at least 40 years.
You're
and
talking about the Club of Rome
having.
documents.
The Club of Rome documents, the Environment Conference at Stockholm, all of these things
the Rio
are
Summit,
mechanisms of the same outfit. And look, you know, if without giving the game away, the Totalitarian book outlines this in absolute gory detail. But the point that I'm making, and this is directly related to your comment a second ago, is about facts. There are a million people out there listening to this saying, WIshart, just another conspiracy theory. There are 500 footnotes in that book, reference back to UN documents, New Zealand government documents, American government documents, autobiographies written by the officials and the people involved. I have gone to the nth degree to nail down every alleged conspiracy theory and turn it into a conspiracy fact. It's not really conspiracy, because a conspiracy is something that takes place hidden. This agenda is hidden in plain sight. It's always been there if you're smart enough to know where to find it. Sadly, most people have been indoctrinated to not recognize it. I was reminded, I was speaking at a function last night, and I used this anecdote. Many of you will have watched the TV series The Following, and TVNZ ran a promo for that a couple of weeks ago, and the promo tagline from the show itself said this: